Hello and welcome to The Real Conversation, your go-to platform for insightful discussions on critical national issues. As always, I am Flora and I'm thrilled to have you with me today as we explore a topic that touches all Nigerians: navigating land reform in Nigeria, tackling challenges and unveiling opportunities for growth. Land, as we know, is not only a vital resource for development, but also a crucial aspect of cultural identity, economic growth, and social equity. Yet, navigating the intricacies of land reform in Nigeria has presented significant challenges, from legal complexities, access issues, to inefficient land management systems. The road to effective reform has been bumpy. In today's conversation, we'll address these issues head-on and discuss how land reform can unlock opportunities for sustainable growth and development across the country. I'm pleased to welcome our distinguished guests of your Ugochukwu Chime, the chairman of Copen Group, past president of Enugu Chamber of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, former president of REDEN, the Real Estate Developers Association of Nigeria, and currently the chairman of the Land Reform Tax Team of the Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. All right, so thank you so very much, Savio Reverend Ugochukwu Chime, for your time on The Real Conversation.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here, Flora.
All right, so you've done extensive work in the field of land reform and urban development, and I'm sure our audience are also eager to hear your insights. But first, can you give us a bit of background on what land reform in Nigeria entails and why it is such a crucial issue at this point in time?
Thank you so much. I've been privileged since 1980 May to have been involved in one form or the other, both as a civil servant and later as a public servant and chairman of a housing corporation with issues of land. And I'd like to say clearly, in the current role we are trying to look at the land reform in the country, we have quite a lot of challenges that are linked to land. The reality is this: every development is on land, and the way you manage land determines how those development goes. We have over $300 billion within debt capital in form of properties, land, assets of people that they cannot convert for beneficial use. That is, use them for collateralization of their loan and bring them into. So you have people who may have assets that are worth hundreds of millions of naira, but because they don't have title to them, they cannot use them to get a loan of even 1 million naira. So the asset is dead to them. So over the years, as a country, we have been looking at how do we make sure that we have robust engagement and socio-economic development. The answer lies down to the issue of land management, the way we have been managing land in the country. You discover there's a book called The Mystery of Capital by Hernando de Soto. In that book, he was able to explain clearly the linkage between effective land management and socio-economic development of the Western countries and why the poor countries are not developing. Every asset owned by anybody via land management in the developed countries are brought into the financial system and can be used as a form of collateral. But in Nigeria today, you find out that all those parcels of land that are outside the urban areas, and even a large chunk of those parcels that are within the urban areas, it is not possible for them to be used for the purpose of gaining traction in the economic field because they do not have registration. As I speak today, you find out that in some communities, the only access to a particular piece of land may be through a track road. Yeah. And therefore, you cannot develop your house. You cannot develop anything meaningful and then go to your house or to that development through that track road. So it calls forth for urban development. So when we talk of land management is a whole compendium that goes forth from mapping that land, bringing it in, planning, giving the urban and regional plan for that area, developing the infrastructure, titling of land, and other processes that goes with associated legal issues over land and how to get titles and how to transfer titles. So this whole gamut of activities are required to be codified, planned, and then the appropriate policies and implementation protocols put in place. Now we have the land use decree. Then, now the Land Use Act that governs how it will be done. Over 90% of the land parcels in Nigeria is in the hand of the state governments. The remaining ones are in the hand of federal government and federal institutions. The implication then is that you have 38 land administrators in the country, 36 states, FCT, and then the federal lands. So these ones govern the land whichever they have title. But we do not have an appropriate geographic information system concerning all the parcels of land. We do not have the layers of these parcels of land brought to the table, because when you are planning, you bring those information to the table for planning purposes. We don't have that as at yet. We don't have it progressively, because it's those ones that will enable the planners to say, okay, this land is better for agriculture because it's near a river, so this is a watershed management you should have. It should be protected because it's a source of water for drinking or all those other issues. So when we were appointed to look at this, we discovered that a lot of information and a lot of work had been done. We have Presidential Technical Committee on Land Reforms. We have so many documents that have been lying with there. And one of the things that worried us when we commenced our work was to ask ourselves, is what we are going to do, is it going to be useful, or is it going to be part of those things that will lie on the shelf of one government institution? But we were able to come up and say to ourselves, no, at least for the sake of posterity, let us do something and see how this will work out. And that's what we have done and what we are doing in the team. And we have beautiful set of Nigerians from all walks of life from the states who contributed to that work, and I appreciate them and I want to thank them for the great sacrifice that it entailed.
All right, so now let's look at the state of land reform in Nigeria. We know that land tenure systems are quite varied and often lead to confusions and delays. Can you elaborate on the key challenges Nigerians face in assessing and securing land?
Thank you so much. A lot of people say we must have to change the land use decree, that it doesn't present what we needed as a way of document. I have had the privilege of looking at that document over and over again and attending a number of seminars and symposiums on that. And what came out from me that we have a human factor challenge. The law is quite clear on what should be done, but the operators, for some reasons, sometimes it may be for pecuniary reasons, sometimes maybe for power play or for whatever reason, have refused to do what needs to be done. The policies that will undergird it is not in place. The technological access to those informations are not put in place. The linkage that is needed between the economic activities are not put in place. The only one that we have had that level of linkage is when you had the model mortgage and foreclosure law, which was a tool that got the involvement of National Judiciary Council, Central Bank of Nigeria, and the state governments, and then the mortgage banks, so that they can design a document that is acceptable across board. Now, the problem is that for us to have the linkage between the financial system in the country and the land management across these 38 land administrators, we have to come in and sit down and say, okay, these are what we need for us to have this land to come into a financial system. And this is what we want you to do. And there will be this discourse, there will be this interaction, there will be this collaboration between the various parties, the private sector, the public sector, the state governments, who are the subnationals, and the federal government, which is in control of the financial policies. There has to be a discussion. And that goes through the Nigerian Governors Forum, which we are part of the activities, to be able to see that what is at stake is not the national, the federal government. No, that's not what is at stake. What is at stake is not the subnational, the states. What is at stake is not the private sector. But what is at stake is an inclusive socio-economic policy and roadmap that we should create that will link up these debt assets and then bring them into life and utilize them as developmental catalysts for our country. If that understanding is there, we discover that some of the policy challenges and some of the other implementation protocol challenges that we have in delays in title, delays in registration, delays in this thing will go away. Because the state governor will now see that when these things are done, the state becomes a destination of choice for investors. Because the investor will ask himself, how many days, what is the turnaround time for each of the activities? What is the transaction cost and transaction time involved in land administration in state A, state B, state C. If I find out that in a state A, I can do all this in 2 weeks, and I found out that in state B, I need 2 years to do it, it goes without telling me that I should go to state A and make an investment. And I must say this because I'm a member of NECA, I'm a member of the Governing Council of Nigerian Employers Consultative Association. We are looking very critically at some of these play points, some of these issues, some of these risk factors in investment, and determining that some states should never be a destination of choice for investment, because either that the governor is unaware of the challenge and difficulties it's imposing. When these investments come in, employment is generated, IGR are increased, but some of them see the land and land policies as a way of direct investment. And we are telling them that this is not the correct approach. What you should do is to use that land to attract investors. There's a limit to what you can get. In some states, we've been able to advocate to them, instead of asking people to pay for land, you can sign an MOU and then let them use the money they have to invest. When the investment gets traction, they cannot pay you for that. So you have delayed gratification in terms of the cost and all those things. So a number of these factors must be brought in and explained to everybody and get our buy-in and necessity for us to be able to do the needful and make sure that the disruptive and innovative approach that we need to have our economy working again and reduce unemployment is brought to bear through effective land management.
All right, you just mentioned some challenges we face in this regard of land management. Now, from your perspective, what changes are urgently needed in the legal framework surrounding land ownership and distribution in Nigeria to promote transparency and fairness?
Thank you so much. The World Bank have agreed there are some star subnationals, some states, like Lagos State, that is doing quite well. They have come, first of all, to do some number of things. The first thing that they did in Lagos State is to classify virtually all the local governments as urban centers. The implication now that you get certificate of occupancy as against customary right of occupancy. The second thing they have done is to do a geographic information mapping of the state, so that sitting there, they have eliminated double registration, they have eliminated some of the challenges that we used to have. That is the second thing they did. The third thing they now are trying to do is to have an enterprise GIS, to have a linkage between the various activities on ground and use this information for varied activities. The same enterprise GIS information you have can be used for taxation, it can be used for town distribution network for water, it can be used by electricity companies, it can be used by telecom companies, it can be used by investors to know which place that they have water sources to locate industries that require water. It can be used for varieties of activities, and more important than any other thing, it can be used for giving title and assuring that those titles are there. It can be used for speeding up the process. So there are a lot of things that need to be done, but the first thing that needs to be done is advocacy for the operators, the state governments, and their public servants to see you are not doing anybody a favor by getting on board to asking one question: how can I improve my land management policies? That question has not been asked by many of them, because currently the World Bank is trying to see how they can help Nigeria to link up the issue of land management, especially the element of titling, the element of elimination of double registration, the element of making sure computerization of land records to have speedier approach to managing those land data. So I believe that this is the first thing that needs to be done. And on the part of institutions like your organization is to begin to share the knowledge to the governors. You are not doing anybody any favor. You are doing a legacy project by making sure that you improve the land management, because as of today, there is nothing tying any investor to any particular state. People are crying out, why is Lagos gaining traction? Everybody is going to Lagos. It's because the system there recognizes that the energy of the private sector is required to provide employment. It's required to provide socio-economic growth. Many governors who want to develop their state must get on board and see There are a number of things that we have put forward which have been shared to many of the governors as the way forward. They must have to start this process. We had a meeting with World Bank. They are willing to give advice and support, but not give money for them to divert, but to put it forward to land management improvement in their states. When that is done, you'll be surprised that in the next few years, I know some states that have agreed to do this. Those states will start witnessing massive innovation. I know states like Nasarawa is coming on board. I know some other states like Enugu has come on board. I know some other states that are also eager to come on board. It has to be a total mindset review to see enhancement of land management in their state as #1 priority that will drive development.
All right, so before we look at how land reform can be a catalyst for economic growth, let's take a short break at this point.
Thank you.
We'll be going on a short break now, and we'll return to continue the real conversation. Don't go anywhere.
When the city is getting too loud, you need a home. Home is love, peace, and tranquility. Home is Housing TV Africa. Housing TV Africa, your first in housing news.
Welcome back to the real conversation. I still have my guest here with me, Savio Reverend Ugochukwu Chime, the chairman of the Land Reform Tax Team of the Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. All right, sir, so let's get straight to you, the next question. A lot of people argue that the land reform can be a catalyst for economic growth. Can you shed some light on how effective land reform can spur development in sectors like housing, agriculture, and urban planning?
Thank you so much. All these activities you mentioned have one linkage: the activities that take place on land. Every human activity takes place on land. Yeah. Even if it's an aircraft, if it takes off, it must land on land. Yeah. So the connection between effective land management and socio-economic development is massive. Over the years, we have not been able to put into place effective understanding of those linkages. And one of the key linkages that is there for them is that for each of these activities, you need financing. And if I'm going to finance any particular project, a key requirement is that I must have collateral of the land parcel you are going to develop. If I'm going to fund an industry, if I'm going to fund an agricultural land, when we had the CBN Anchor Borrowers Program, the major reason why that program failed was that there was no way central bank and its consultants can be sure that this land parcel being referred to in this survey plan or in the title is genuine. There's no double allocation. So people can see one parcel of land, do something from this person, and the same parcel of land, another person goes and does it, and the same parcel of land, they come for loan a number of times. We've seen that in some institutions. So what effective land management will do is to give confidence to the financial institutions that they will not have this kind of challenge. When they give out billions of naira for development, they will not have legal issues in future. When they discover that there has been double allocation, or there have been inferior titles, or there have been fake titles. It will also give confidence to the whole system of those who are buying. As of today, because of effective land management in FCT, for instance, you have double allocations. You have people's houses that are being pulled down. Yes. So all these losses, they may not know that it is linked to inefficient land management system. Because if you have an efficient land management system, it will detect some of these double allocation. Those who are going to give loans to developers will be able to ascertain whether the title is genuine and ascertain it in a transparent, timely manner. So whether it is agriculture, whether it is industry, whether it is tourism, whether it is real estate, residential real estate, the impact of inefficient land management is staring us in the face. And is calling forth for us to take this as the major problem it is. Trillions of naira have been lost because of ineffective land management. What we have paid as a price, either for wasted development that was truncated because of court cases, or because of diverted investment, or because of delays, is more than 10-20 times the cost required to put in place an effective land management. And that is why we are saying that if we truly want to have this resurgimento, this resurgence of development that is called forth by the present government for renewed hope, whether it is renewed hope scheme of all sorts, whether in housing, we must have to note that these efforts will not yield the quantum of fruit we're expecting if we do not manage the land aspect of it. And unfortunately, the government is not paying attention to this. I was telling somebody that the issue of land management is not something that should be left under the exclusive intervention of the Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. It should be something that should get the interest of Mr. President because of the huge impact across various areas of activities. It affects agriculture, it affects finance, it affects everybody. And until we give it a Class A priority by the President, we may not get the traction we need. Mr. President must have to call the governors in and have a robust engagement on this area that is leaking all our developmental energy and put a stop to it. As of today, we have trillions of naira that can go into residential housing. The retirement savings account that pension have mentioned is available, 25% of each person's retirement savings account, have over 5 trillion that can be invested in the mortgage sector and make to own homes. We have hundreds of billions. We have Murphy Real Estate Investment Fund coming into play. We have Family Homes Fund, and we have the good old Federal Mortgage Bank. But as of today, if you go to these institutions, one of the key problems they have is, number one, they don't have properties that they can mortgage. Number two, for those properties they don't have effective title. So this huge asset, this huge amount of resources is lying available there, but there are no properties. And if other properties don't have the effective title, Federal Mortgage Bank went into it in a way, and they created what they called Internal Record Registry. Fast forward 20 years down the line, 10 years down the line, it has created a problem because some of those challenges have propped up. So what has to be done for us to get the full value of some of the initiatives we have put in place as a country is that we must have to look at putting in place a roadmap for effective land management that will involve the subnationals, under whose jurisdiction majority of our land parcels lie upon. They must be made to know that it is a crisis situation in our land management, and without it, the country will not have the desired socio-economic growth that we are asking for and we all need.
All right, so talking about ineffective land management system, given the complexities you've mentioned so far, what role can technology play in making land registration and land ownership more accessible, transparent, and efficient?
Thank you so much. Technology is a supporter. It's an enabler. It's not the lead factor. The lead factor is political will. Yeah. Then if there's a political will, that political will lay out what needs to be done, who needs to do it, when we need to do the strategies for implementation. Technology becomes a catalyst, an enabler. So most people think, oh, we must have to deploy technology to drive this. Yes, technology is good, but it has to follow the decision to engage, the political will. I tell you something, I don't want to mention the state, but in one of the states, one of the governors, he was able to put in place a mechanism and did an enterprise GIS mapping of the state and everything. But because there was lack of political will, the people running the system found out that such level of transparency in record keeping that was put in place by the technology was inimical to their own corrupt tendencies. What did they do? They sabotaged the whole scheme. They made it inoperable. It was not possible to run those systems. And they now reverted to the manual, that allow them to tamper with documents and cause documents to miss. So, putting technology as the first thing would be a terrible mistake. But if there's a political will and the governor is willing to cut off corruption in the system and make corrupt people to leave their offices and put in people who are very serious and devoted, that is the first challenge that we must have to cross over. Then we can now deploy technology, which will not be sabotaged by lack of political will.
Okay, so we need the political will first.
We need the political will.
Before we talk about technology.
And it is lacking today.
And it is lacking. All right, so we'll go for another short break, and we'll be back to continue the real conversation. Stay with us.
Get credible and authentic housing news at your fingertips by downloading the Housing TV mobile app. You can also join the African International Housing Show live from across the globe through the Housing TV mobile app. The mobile app features live streaming and trending housing news. You can locate the AIHS venue via the app, network with AIHS seasoned speakers, and live chat with exhibitors. You can also order house or building materials at AIHS via this app. Download the Housing TV mobile app now from the App Store and Google Play Store. And don't forget to click on the notification button. Available for both iOS and Android users. Housing TV is also on Star Times, channel 149 decoder.
Welcome back to the real conversation. I will continue our discussion right now. All right, so let's talk about the economic opportunities beyond access to land for housing or agriculture. What long-term economic benefits do you foresee if Nigeria successfully navigates land reform?
Thank you so much. All the stakeholders and parties to that land reform will benefit. The first one, let me talk of the government. First of all, the government will be able to know the land parcels they have. As of today, many of them are not collecting the revenues that are supposed to accrue from land. A lot of them don't even know how to manage their land. And then more seriously is that the leakages in their revenue collection system will be plugged. You'll be able to know what you're expecting as a government and not leave it to nebulous figures that are generated out of it. You can even use satellite imagery to be able to know some of this. So the government, the subnationals, the federal government, they will benefit in terms of access to more revenue and being able to know that. Then the business people, as of today, the key investment energy is from the private sector. It will enable the private sector to have investment inflow into some of those states, and it will reduce the transaction time and cost. As of today, it takes a huge amount of time. I have seen developers who finish houses in 6 months, and it's taking the state governments 1 year, 2 years to process those titles for the mortgage. What is the implication? The implication is that the cost of funds is increasing. The interest is still running over those 2 years spectrum it took for them to be able to perfect the title. So all the investors will be able to be happier because there will be reduced transaction time and transaction costs for those investments in the state. The normal people will be happy because majority of Nigerians, because of the high cost of living, can no more afford to build their own houses. They will rely on mortgages. And if therefore we're able to improve access to effective land reforms and management, it will lead to more affordability, and it will make the financial institution to be interested in investing money in providing residential mortgages to people. And the huge amount of money I earlier mentioned that is available with retirement savings accounts and then MREF and other organizations, Federal Mortgage Bank, Family Homes Fund, will now be available for Nigerians to tap the mortgage, because a lot of people are pessimistic. They think that if the mortgage institution don't want to give money, it's not true. The problem they have is that they don't have effective titles upon which they can be sure if we give our money and there's a default, we can be able to get our asset back. Yes. Because this money that they loan to you, somebody's money. Yes. For instance, now we have the modern mortgage and foreclosure law that was being in place for years now. Many of the states have not domesticated it, because you may have that law crafted at the national level, but the subnationals must domesticate it as their own law for it to be implemented. So, less than 5 states out of the whole lot have domesticated it. So it makes it difficult for banks to repossess assets that they have under mortgage, or they gave money to people. So the whole system will benefit if we are going to have in place effective land management, the policy, the implementation protocols put in place, enforcement standard, the legal issues straightened out. So you don't have to have problems. We have to take it further also to the lower level, wherein if you are a tenant in a property, the issue is this: did you pay or you didn't pay? Outside this country, somebody can't go to court and have not paid and remain in a house for a year. Most government think that you are injuring the landlord or you're injuring the developer. That's not who you are injuring. You are injuring the economic system, because it reduces the trust, it increases the trust gap. People say, why should I go and build houses when people can owe it? And the bank who gave me the loan will sell my house. So we have to look at the whole value chain of impact that the effective land management will bring to everybody. If you didn't pay your rent, did you pay? If you come to the court, we also improve the adjudication system with the court. Did you pay? You didn't pay. Then you leave the house, because the basis of your stay in that house is that you pay your rent. The basis of which you take any good from a store is that you pay for the goods. Yeah. So how can you you can't go to a supermarket and then take meat pie and eat it and say go to court. That is what you are doing to the landlord who built a house or the developer. You are enjoying his goods and you say you should go to court. So we have to have a rekindling of efficiency in all these activity centers that will govern the effective land management that we desire for us as a country. When we do that, everybody will benefit. And that is why we are asking that this has to be done, and urgently so. More so, it's a government that is interested in renewing our hope in efficiency, socio-economic growth, and employment generation as a country.
All right, so finally, what advice would you give to policymakers, landowners, and citizens who are eager to see tangible progress in land reform?
The first thing is for them to understand the linkage between activities. We tend to think in silos, and we say, okay, we are dealing with land management. If they look at the coterminous connections between land management and the various activities they are doing, they will have a rethink. And that rethink will be, how can we have effective land management? If an area is prescribed as an urban area, most people think, oh, they want to tax us more. No. Government calling it an urban area is to help you in the long run, to help you have motorable access when we have an effective planning of the land. Instead of that footpath, we now have a motorable access to every parcel of land. So we must start being more optimistic than pessimistic as a people, and government must wake up and be able to share with people what is the true intention of some of these policies and put them in place. I'm sure that if we do that, we will move very forward. There may be some hiccups in the process, but in the process of time, we'll be able to get it right and have an effective land management system that will drive the employment, drive socio-economic growth, drive the connections for shelter that we need as a country. And that is what we are praying for, and that is why we have given ourselves to do this work for Nigeria and the Land Reform Task Force.
All right, so we must start being optimistic as a people, more optimistic as a people. Thank you very much, Reverend Ugochukwu Chime, for your time. This has been an eye-opening conversation, and I'm sure our viewers now have a deeper understanding of the challenges and opportunities that lie in land reform. Thank you so much for sharing your valuable insights with us today. We appreciate your time and your expertise.
Thank you so much, Flora. Thank you.
All right, so to our viewers, land is a vital resource that underpins much of our development. If we navigate these challenges and embrace the opportunities, we can unlock new levels of growth for Nigeria. Let's continue to stay informed and involved in this conversation. Thank you for watching The Real Conversation. I'm Flora, and we look forward to having you with us next time as we continue to explore issues that shape our future. Have a great time today.